Welcome to the Bag Maker's Workroom. I'm Chris with Simply Classic, and today is Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. Hello, everyone. Happy early 4th of July. I can't believe half the year's already over. It's crazy. We are super excited about the holiday. Most people have a nice 3-day weekend at the very least, so we hope you enjoy that. I hope it's not too hot where you are. We're steaming down here in Georgia, but it's summertime, so that's to be expected. So just as a reminder, we go live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can't join live, watch the recording on YouTube at any time. Make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when I post a new video or we go live. So Rock says, Happy Independence Day to all of my good neighbors in the South tomorrow. And we thank you for that. And we want to reverse that and say Happy Independence Day to you as well. A little bit late. I think you had yours not too long ago, a couple days ago. Heather Snow is watching from California. Thank you, Heather, for joining us. And Renee Perry Designs, hello from Snellville. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We really do appreciate it. So our theme today is American leather and bag making, and here's what we have planned. So first, we're going to go over news and updates. I'm going to draw some winners for our pattern giveaways. I'm going to show you our new pattern of the week and our perfect pairings. We're going to talk about the history of leather crafting in the U.S. Since it's 4th of July, we're going to concentrate on the U.S. We're then going to go over some important things to know about leather thickness and temper. We're going to feature our customers' bags in Artistry Avenue. And finally, I'll let you know how to enter our weekly giveaway. So as a reminder, if you have any questions during the live stream, ask them in the chat and we'll do a Q&A at the end of our hour. Also, please take a second to click the thumbs up button below the video. That will really help us reach more people on YouTube, and we really do appreciate your support. So we are going to start out with the Simply Classic Scoop, and this is where we kind of tell you what's going on in the world of Simply Classic. And the first thing that I want to kind of remind you about is, of course, last week we had a recorded session, and because we were in Salt Lake City. So Taylor and I went to Salt Lake to Bernina University. We were kindly invited to that wonderful event. We had an amazing show. You can see this is we're in the process of setting up our booth here, but we really did fantastic. It was really great. I'm so excited about all the shops all over the United States and Canada that will be carrying Simply Classic products. And some of them already were and just were restocking. Others were brand new to the store. So thank you so much to everyone that stopped by the booth. We really do appreciate you. We also got a preview of our new Classic Fuse woven interfacing. So this is what the package is going to look like. It's going to come in 2, 5, and 10-yard bundles. It is we'll talk about it more when we get it, but basically it's a curtain glue back interfacing. It is amazing, sticks amazingly well. Definitely a superior product to some of our competitors. We've been working a long time on it, and so we are super excited about it. We did have a sample for the show. They are in the process of packaging it right now, and we hopefully will have it to sell to you in the next couple weeks. So while we were out in Utah, we had one day that we kind of had free, and we went to Park City, which was amazingly beautiful. Look at these views. We did a short hike, and then we got to go up in the chairlift, which is usually for the ski resort. But of course, with no snow on the ground, it was just for us to ride up and see the pretty views and ride down. If you were not on the live stream, we did a live from the chairlift. We didn't mean to do that. We actually we thought we were going to be in our booth and we were going to do a live for our subscription box giveaway. And we realized we got the time change backwards. So we were in the chairlift. We're like, oh, shoot, we got to go live. So we did it from the chairlift. So if you want to watch something kind of hilarious, go ahead and take a look at our video. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. Also, we want to let you know that since July is self-proclaimed Leather Month, we are having a sale. We are having 25% off all of our leather hides and 15% off everything else. So happy 4th of July to all of our US viewers. Happy belated Canada Day to our neighbors up north. We're celebrating with a big sale and we are so excited about it. The sale is going to run through Monday, July 7th. And there's only one product that's excluded from the sale, and that's our bag making subscription box. So, as all of you know, the sign-up period for the subscription ended June 30th. We made extra boxes this time. We wanted to make sure to give everyone an opportunity to buy even the one-time box. So if you are interested, we have 6 boxes left. You can purchase it without a subscription, okay? Only while supplies last. Once those 6 boxes are gone, they're gone. Again, it's for a pattern that has not yet been released to the public. This is an example of the spring box. Our summer box, of course, is totally different, but it'll give you everything you need to make the bag. And so if you are interested, make sure you grab one. Again, it is one time. It is not a subscription. It's $95 plus shipping, which is still a small savings. It's about a 5% savings. So check that out. And before we move on, we need to pick our giveaway winners from our last 2 episodes. So we usually give away 1 PDF pattern to a person watching live and 1 who watches the replay. But last week, since we were pre-recorded, we actually have 3 names to pick. So we're going to go to the overhead, and the first name we're going to pick is for the Sorella. So if you recall, the Sorella is a hip bag that we featured a couple of weeks ago, and we asked you to comment your name and your favorite bag color. So I have the names of the people who entered here in this tray. We have a couple that jumped out there. Let's see who won. So the winner of the Sorella is Danielle Brown. Danielle says, my favorite bag color is burgundy. So congratulations, Danielle. We appreciate you watching and joining, and you have won a Sorella pattern. Make sure you email us within the next 30 days to get that pattern. So the next is the Fairhaven, and the Fairhaven is the bag that we featured last week. This is one here. This is out of leather. It's really an amazing bag. I love the Fairhaven. And actually, it was a big hit at the show, too. So since we were pre-recorded, we did not pick a live winner. So we're going to pick 2 winners. I'm going to actually dump these out because we have a bunch of them. So we're going to pick 1 to represent the live and 1 to represent the replay. So the first winner is Norma Angelica, and she says that she loves bronze. We asked for your favorite hardware color. Okay. And then the second winner is Rose Thomas. She says, Rose, my favorite color of hardware is nickel, but antique brass is quickly becoming a go-to. So congratulations, Rose and Norma. We, again, appreciate you watching, and you have won a Fairhaven pattern. Make sure you email share@simplyclassic.net to claim your pattern. So we are reminding you that you have 30 days, again, to go ahead and collect that. And again, we really appreciate all of you joining and giving your name. So before we move on, I want to remind you that July is self-proclaimed Leather Month. So we are going to be talking about all the basics of getting started with leather bag making. So here are our themes and topics that we have planned, but we might end up tweaking them a little bit based on what you want to learn. So if you have any questions about working with leather, or if you want me to demonstrate a particular technique, please email share@simplyclassic.net. We'll make sure that we include them in one of our July episodes. So let's look at this. So today is going to be kind of like an overview of American leather crafting and bag making. Next week, we're going to talk about specific tools and notions. On July 17th, we're going to talk about cutting and stitching. The 24th, we're going to talk about glue, stabilizer, and stiffeners. And then July 31st, we're going to be discussing edge painting, edge coating, edge painting, different leathers, and how you do that. So it is now time to look at our pattern of the week. And this week it is the Julie. You can see I've got 3 Julies set up here. The Julie pattern is by far our most popular pattern. It is $12.49 through next Wednesday, the PDF pattern. So if you've never made a Simply Classic bag before, the Julie is probably a really good place to start. It's really a very simple pattern, comes together beautifully, very classic. And I want to show you the inspiration for the Julie was a Dooney and Burt tote that I saw a few years ago. It's called the Lexington. And the one that inspired me was part of their big ostrich collection. I wanted to make my own version, so I made the Julie. So we're going to switch to the overhead and take a look at the Julie. So it is a mid-size tote, and this one is made out of our aqua color faux leather, and it has camel handles. Now, the pattern has rectangle rings here, but I decided that I was going to make my straps, just hide those, make those the hidden strap connectors instead of adding separate strap connectors. And just another way to do it. It has a great pocket in the front and in the back. And I have a cell phone that's not, mine's not super big, but you can see how much room you have. I mean, I still have another inch here and it slides right down in there and you cannot see that phone. It disappears in there. Okay, so there's a pocket in the front and in the back for a cell phone or whatever else you may need to put in there. You have a zipper closure at the top. And when you unzip that on the inside, you have a slip pocket that is large enough to divide. I always love to have a little pen divider. On the other side, we have a zipper pocket and a smaller slip pocket, which I really find, even though it's small, I find it really useful. You know, what happens a lot of times is we get a bag, it has some feature in it, and we're like, ooh, we like that. We have to have it in all our bags. And the key fob was one of those things. And of course, it has a key fob. So Nancy says, great looking tote. I love it. Yes, the Julie is by far, as I said, our most popular pattern. It's one of our oldest patterns too. It's one of the very first patterns that I ever designed. And it's done well by us. So the Julie I wanted to mention is 12 inches wide, 11.5 inches high, and 4 inches deep. So I also want to show you this fun hack. This is the Everton tote by Patricia Nash on the left. When I saw it, I realized, you know, this is the Julie. It's just got a cinch on the side. So I decided to hack the Julie, and with a few changes, I basically turned it into the Patricia Nash bag. So I did it out of this, it's called a, I think the pattern's just called Brick, and it's in this blue color. It's really a soft fabric. It's really amazing. Any of our solids would do well with this. Also, our textures would do really well. And so some of you have, I've seen on the Facebook group, you've posted this hack and they're gorgeous. So if you haven't checked out that video yet, go ahead and check it out on the YouTube channel. We have it linked below. And again, the Julie PDF pattern is on sale for $12.49 for 1 week. And that discount ends next Wednesday, July 9th. So we are going to move into perfect pairings where we pair some of our leather and faux leather with matching lining, thread, and hardware. You can use these as inspirations for your Julie or whatever bag you're making next. We went a little wild tonight, okay? And we did it because it's summertime. And you know what? It's time to, if you're going to make something fun and wild and bright, now's the time to do it. So the leather that we have chosen tonight, I'm going to bring this to the overhead, is dun, da, 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 sunshine. So this sunshine leather is really amazing. It's bright, it's fun, it's not neon, it's sunshine, okay? That doesn't have that greenish tint to it. It's really pretty. We actually suggest our leopard satin lining to go with it. I think it would be an amazing combination. Now, my piece here is interfaced with some woven interfacing. You can interface it. It adheres beautifully, no problem. And we would suggest bronze hardware with it. I have one piece of bronze hardware here. And daffodil thread. Now, daffodil, when you look at it on the spool, doesn't really look like it would match the sunshine. But when you take a piece of it out and you lay it on the leather, it is almost an exact match. Okay, it just disappears into that leather. Now, the daffodil only comes in Fusion 45, which is a Tex 45 thread. So if you have an industrial machine, I would actually recommend sand for the color to use with your sunshine. Now, don't forget, our leather is on sale 25% off. Okay, so if you are interested in making a sunshine bag, now is the time. So kind of following that same color theme, we decided to go with our goldenrod ostrich as our faux leather. Now, this has a lot more brown in it, so we suggest the brown chambray by Tilda for the lining. Again, the bronze hardware is definitely the way to go, and I would suggest dark brown thread. If you would like to make the handles a different color in this, I would go with dark brown. I just really think that would be pretty. Okay. So as a reminder, everything on our site is currently on sale. So we are not running any special additional sales on these items. You can get the leather 25% off and everything else on our site, except for those 6 subscription boxes, it's 15% off. So we are going to move on to Sharpen Your Skills, and this is the segment where we look at sewing techniques to help you become a better bag maker. And today we're going to talk about leather thickness and temper. So temper, okay, temper is akin to the hand of a fabric. So if you hear somebody say, you know, what is the hand of that fabric? You say, oh, it's really soft or it's really stiff. Same thing with leather, only we call it temper. So temper, you can see here from this chart, goes from basically very soft all the way to firm or stiff. So if you look here, you can see the firm or stiff is the top, and basically a stiff leather is a leather that's not easily bent or folded. Okay, think about like heavy duty belts and straps, things like that. That's going to be your firm or stiff leather. It can be used for wet molding, usually, again, depending on, you know, the kind of leather, but usually that's the kind of leather they use. Semi-firm or semi-stiff is leather that is slightly stiff but less rigid than firm leather. It tends to hold its shape, and a lot of times it's found on boots or motorcycle bags. Semi-soft is leather that is soft and flexible. Often it's used to make sneakers and handbags. Soft leather is leather that is extremely flexible and pliable. It tends to not hold its shape, and it's often used for clothing and upholstery. And then very soft leather is leather that can be crumpled easily into a ball. It does not hold its shape, and most often it's used to make clothing. So soft and very soft leathers can be used in handbag making with the aid of leather stiffeners. So we're going to kind of have some more examples in just a minute, but I want to talk about thickness first. So thickness describes the density of the leather. And you can see in this chart here, we're going to go over some of these differences. So some hides are naturally thicker than others, of course. You know, for instance, buffalo is much thicker than lamb. Lamb is much thicker than snake. I mean, of course, you know, we have all different types of animals out there. Thickness is typically measured in millimeters or ounces. And we have this conversion chart you're looking at here that you can kind of see. When you buy leather from us, we include the thickness in both ounces and in millimeters. So basically, linings, bags, and garments are anywhere between 0.4 to 1.2 millimeters. Now, 0.4 millimeters equals 1 ounce. So if you have a 1.2 ounce or excuse me, a 1.2 millimeter leather, it is equivalent to a 3-ounce leather. If you have a 2.8 millimeter leather, it's considered a 7-ounce leather. Okay, so you can kind of see on this chart how that converts. The 0.4 to 1.2 or 1 to 3 ounce is usually used for linings, bags, and garments. A 1.6 to 2.8, which is a 4 to 7 ounce, is usually used for bags, but a different kind of bag, usually the bags that are hand stitched, shoes, boots, and chaps. 3.2 to 3.6 or 8 or 9 ounce leather is used for belts, bridles, and sheaths, like knife sheaths. And then if you get into 4 millimeter or 10 ounce leather, you're looking at heavy belts, you're looking at stirrups, saddles, halters, leads, that type of thing. Okay, so we're going to go to the overhead and I'm going to show you a couple of examples of leather. So I have 2 different leathers here. This sea green is one we featured a couple weeks ago. This is a hide that we sell, and it's a lambskin hide. I also have a piece here of veg tan leather. It is a probably a cow. I can't remember exactly what it was when I bought it, but it's a lot thicker than this lambskin. Okay, so when we look at these, we see. Let's first talk about temper. So this piece right here, I can hold it up with the very tips of my fingers and you see it keeps its shape. It does not sag, it does not fall. It would be considered a firm leather. If I pick up this lambskin, it does not stay flat at all. Okay, if anything, I can easily push it into a ball. It would be considered a very soft leather. Okay, so again, 2 very different hides when it comes to temper. So now let's look at thickness. Thickness is always used, you measure it with a gauge. Now, gauges come in different shapes and sizes. Some of them are really long, some of them are digital. This is one I just had that I picked up on Amazon. And what happens is that when you depress this button, you can see that the bottom here comes down. We're going to put our leather in here. And depending on how far down it goes before we hit our leather is going to tell us the actual millimeters. This is a millimeter gauge. So if I'm able to go all the way down, you can see my arrows on 0. And what that means is I have 0 millimeters of leather. Okay, makes sense. But if I start letting up, then suddenly the numbers are getting larger. So let's take a look at our lambskin and let's see what it is. If I stick it in and now I'm not pressing super hard, I'm just pressing so that's depressing on the leather. You can see that this is about a 1 millimeter leather. Now, one thing I do want to tell you is that a lot of times you have to measure the hide in a couple different places because hide thicknesses can vary depending on where it is on the hide. Sometimes you're going to see that hides give you a range. You know, it's between 1 and 1.2 millimeters. And that's just because in different areas on the hide, it measures slightly differently. So like right here, it measures 1 millimeter. But when I went over, excuse me, it was 1.1, about 1.1. But when I went over here, it was about 1 millimeter. Okay. So you just depress and it tells you about where it is. So this is about a 1 to 1.2 millimeter hide. And so if we look at this chart, you can see that that's kind of the top of the line for garment bags. It's kind of a thicker leather. I probably wouldn't use it for a garment. I would use it for a bag, but be careful about where I put my seams. We're going to go back. You can see here that I can fold it and I can top stitch it. But if I had several layers of it, you know, it might get a little bit thick. But really, it's not something I need to skive. I could certainly use this, put some stiffener on it, which we'll talk about later in the month, how to glue, how to put the stiffener on, and then turn the bag into it. So we would kind of treat this piece of leather just like we would treat our faux leather bags when we're constructing. You're going to stabilize it, and then you're going to keep the stabilizer out of the seam allowance, and then you're just going to go ahead and stitch. So Cynthia says, can you interface lamb leather? Yes. Well, not interface, but you want to stabilize lamb leather. So what I would use is some kind of salpa, which again we'll talk about a little bit later in our stiffener episode. I think it's mid-month. And I would stiffen this with a piece of salpa so that it holds its shape so that when I pick it up, it doesn't do this. If I made a bag out of this with no stiffener, it would just literally crumble. Okay. So yes, absolutely, lamb needs to be stabilized. Great question. So we're going to move on and we're going to take a look at this piece of leather. And this piece of leather here is much different. Okay, you can see it doesn't have any color on it. It's got a little bit of finish on it, but not really. Let's take a look and see what it measures. So when I put this in the measurement gauge, ooh, look at that. You can see this is about a 3.5 millimeter piece of leather. Okay. So let's look at this and what this means. So 3.5, 3.5, you're looking at a belt, bridle, or sheath. It's an 8 or 9 ounce leather. Okay, huge difference. So this is a leather that I could it's veg tan, first of all. This is chrome tan. This is veg tan. We'll talk about how that works a little bit later in the month. And you could certainly do a little bit of wet molding or forming with this piece. And also you can dye it. And so this is an instance where you would use some actual like stained leather dye, not paint. You would use some dye on it. And really the finish on it is so different. This is, I wouldn't say it's waterproof. You're not going to want to put a lot of water on your leather ever. But if a little bit of water got on this, it would just rub right off. Okay. Where this, it would tend to soak into the leather. So again, leather, two totally different things, two totally different instances, two totally different animals, two totally different uses. Leather is so versatile just depending on what kind of leather you get. So you really want to pay attention, look at your project, figure out what you're doing, and then take a look at the temper and the thickness to help you decide what kind of leather is perfect for your project. All right, we are going to move on to the Thursday thread. And every week on the Thursday thread, we tell you a sewing story. Today, we're going to talk about the history of leather crafting and bag making in the United States, since it is our birthday. Leather is one of humanity's most universal sources. It's believed that people have used animal hides for over 40,000 years across every culture and every continent. So there's a lot we could talk about, but for today, we're going to just cover a tiny slice of history here in the US. So of course, leather was used in North America long before the United States became a nation. Indigenous people used rawhide from buffalo, elk, deer, and other North American mammals to make all kinds of things: clothing, shoes, shelters, drums, and more. Different tribes used and decorated their leather in lots of different ways. So we want to show you this. This is really interesting. This is one of the oldest leather artifacts ever discovered in the United States. It was found in a cave in Missouri, and it's estimated to be 7,500 years old. It was made from flat pieces of deer and bear leather, which were lined with grass and then tied to the foot with some fiber cords. Isn't that cool? So the oldest leather bag that has ever been discovered in the US was found in Utah, and it is made of antelope hide. It's almost 3,000 years old. You can see it here. The size is about 11 inches by 3.5 inches, and it had 2 main compartments. It was found with 3 smaller pouches inside that contained seeds, stones, and tools. So archaeologists think that it was owned by a hunter. I know it's a little hard to see what's going on here, but the bags back then were pretty much just sacks or pouches that they tied to themselves. And so this is, an example of that. So one tribe of the Plains Indians that is known for leatherworking is Kiowa, like the Kiowa people. Kiowa people. They are a tribe that developed much more recently in the 1600s after the Spanish brought horses to North America. The Kiowa people were known for hunting and making use of every part of the buffalo. So they were big buffalo hunters. Of course, being on the plains, that was the abundance of what was there. They used buffalo leather to make bedding, clothes, saddles, I mean, pretty much everything, you name it. They used the horns to make spoons and other useful objects. They even used their hooves to make glue. So here are some examples of some leather goods that they made. I love the beading on that piece on the right. I'm sure that was all hand beaded. Of course, back then, that's what they used. Everything was hand done. And those boots are kind of cool, aren't they? That's something that could really make a fashion statement today. I like those. So Rock says, the use of leather in mankind is older than the invention of the wheel. It is, yes. Think about that. And you know, the thing that I really like about it is the fact that they used every part of the animal. They would kill the animal for the meat, and then they would literally break that animal down and use every part of it for something. Nothing went to waste. And almost kind of the way God intended it, I think. And otherwise, things wouldn't be the way they are. So when Europeans arrived in the Americas in the 15th century, they brought their own techniques with them. A lot of homesteaders made their own leather. And of course, there were also professional craftspeople who specialized in things like equestrian gear. Dutch colonists opened the first tannery in what is now known as New York City, but at the time was called New Amsterdam. This was before the US independence, all the way back in 1638. They built in that area called the Swamp, and it later became a hot spot for tanneries and leather manufacturing goods. Working conditions were pretty terrible, and many workers ended up leaving the city to start their own tanneries all over the Northeast. And that's how a lot of industrial towns were created, like this one here in Pennsylvania. Leather workers mostly went into areas with plenty of hemlock trees because hemlock bark was used to tan the leather. This gives the leather this kind of natural reddish hue like you see on the right. In other parts of the US, white oak bark was used instead, which gives the leather a lighter yellow color like the one we see on the left. And let me tell you, white oak is big down here in the South, and my guess is that a lot of southern states use the white oak to tan. So in the 1700s, the Industrial Revolution completely changed the way leather was manufactured. Scientists and inventors looked for ways to improve the quality and reduce cost, which led to some new practices. For example, chrome tanning. So as a reminder, chrome tanning is when the leather is treated with a chemical solution, while veg tan leather uses organic materials like the white oak and the hemlock bark. Chrome tanning was invented in Germany, not the US, but it was brought over in the 1800s. The process is a lot faster, so manufacturers could produce more and sell more hides than ever. And that's still true to this day. Chrome tanning still is faster, takes a few days. The veg tan takes, a month or two. And so chrome tan leather is always going to be cheaper. Well, maybe I don't say always. You know how when you say always, sometimes you kick yourself. But most of the time, it's cheaper than veg tan. And it's definitely a much quicker process, much faster process. You're going to find probably a more abundance of chrome tan because of that reason. So unfortunately, leather tanning is quite smelly and it can cause pollution. A lot of rivers were affected by chrome tanning and improper waste disposal. The number of hemlock trees was also in steep decline because of the vegetable tan leather. So here's a photo of workers stripping the hemlock tree for its bark. But instead of planting more trees or finding another solution, company used the newly built railroad to get bark shipped to them from other areas of the United States. Another innovation was patent leather, which is coated with a high gloss finish. It was first developed in Europe in the late 18th century, where it was known as glazed leather. Then an American inventor named Seth Boyden came across a piece from Germany and decided to reverse engineer it. He used a lacquer coating made with linseed oil to get a really glossy finish, and people loved it. It started as a popular material for making dress shoes and riding boots, and they were super easy to clean. And eventually it made its way to handbags as well. This is an ad for a patent leather bag from the 30s on the left, and it's next to a patent leather bag that was made in the 40s. Now, unfortunately, and we found this interesting, the early patent leather was made using lead. So a lot of old patent leather bags are hazardous to your health. Interesting, isn't it? So here is a photo of some cowboys decked out in leather. And by the 1800s, beef farms were beginning to move westward, which raised the prices of leather hides for the East Coast, but it opened a whole new opportunity in the West. This coincided with the rise of cowboy culture. Not every single cowboy walked around in leather chaps, but people in the Wild West did wear a lot of leather. Unlike on the East Coast, Western leather crafting used techniques like tooling and fringe. So fringe has been used all over the world, but the kind we associate with cowboys originally came from Native Americans. They cut fringe to help water run off of the clothing more easily so it would dry faster. It was also decorative, and they obviously had to do something with the scraps, right? That's what we use it for. I love this picture of the cowgirls. So there's a story that goes back in the 1800s that a cowboy stopped at a trading post in New Mexico as he rode west. He met a Navajo artisan who was selling a beautiful leather belt inlaid with turquoise stones. The artisan told him that he learned his technique from Mexican craftspeople. The cowboy was blown away because in his experience, belts were purely functional. But here was a belt that was also decorative and really beautiful. So the cowboy purchased the belt and continued his journey west, where he helped make decorative saddles and accessories popular among cowboys. Now, I'm not sure whether that's a true story, but it goes to show you that what we think of as American leather crafting was influenced by all kinds of different cultures. Even in today's short history, we saw examples from the Dutch, the English, Spanish, Mexicans, and Germans. So it comes from all over the world. The first luxury leather goods company in the US was called Mark Cross, and it still exists today. Mark Cross was founded in Boston in 1845 and originally made equestrian gear before switching to handbags in the mid-1800s. The concept of a brand or fashion house as we know it today was still very new, especially in North America. European designers like Hermes were beginning to make a name for themselves, but we didn't quite have the same momentum here in North America. The country was still very young and spread out, so it was just a really different landscape. These are some of Mark Cross's vintage bags, but we could not find an example of what their very first bag looked like. This is the earliest we could find. So the handbag industry as we know it today really came about within the last 100 years. We've already talked a lot about the most iconic American bag designers like Coach and Dooney and Burke. Overall, European brands are still associated with more luxury than American brands. However, that might be starting to change a little bit. A lot of the oldest fashion houses in Europe have been using lower quality leather to save money, while Coach, for example, is still known for making high quality bags. But forget the big brands. There's a lot of very talented independent designers and makers here in the US. And yes, that means all of you out there who are watching this right now. So the future of leather bag making is in our hands. And speaking of artists, we are going to move on to Artistry Avenue. In Artistry Avenue is where we feature bags made by our customers. Every week we share bags that were posted in the Simply Classic bag making community on Facebook or email to share@simplyclassic.net. Featured artists will win a PDF pattern of your choice. This is open worldwide. If we feature your bag, you have 30 days to email share@simplyclassic.net to let us know which pattern you'd like. So now let's take a look at this week's artists. So Darina made this Julie, and it is so pretty for summer. Now, Darina is in Australia, So it's winter for her right now, but she used this white croc vinyl with a floral accent. She also shared a photo of the interior, which is so pretty, and we zoomed in on it here so you can see it for more details. She used the same floral for the lining, and she added a stripe of orange for the slip pocket and orange trim on the zipper placket. Even the zippers are orange, and it really looks amazing. What a fun summer bag. Fariza also made this Julie, and I love it when people pair cork with leather or faux leather. Fariza used this cork with a beautiful chevron print and a navy blue solid as the accent. Isn't that gorgeous? And then Trish made this Julie, and look at the amazing colors on this bag. Trish called it the sassy and colorful bag, and I agree. The blues and the pinks are so perfectly matched. She used a floral waterproof canvas for the center pocket on the front and on the back of the bag. Her interior pockets are hot pink with polka dots to match the handles, and she even used a rainbow zipper to tie it all together. Isn't it beautiful? So thank you and congratulations to all of our artists. Please email us within 30 days at share@simplyclassic.net and let us know which pattern you would like. So we are going to move on to our Q&A and our giveaway. But before we answer your questions, it's time to announce the giveaway. And the giveaway, of course, is going to be a PDF pattern for the Julie. So we're going to give one away on today's live stream and one on the replay. And in case you missed it, this again is the Julie bag behind me. So first, this is how you enter if you're watching the replay, not the live stream, okay? So if you're watching the replay, go ahead and leave a comment on the replay before next Thursday. You're going to give us your first name and your experience level with bag making. So for example, if you're a beginner or expert or somewhere in between, we'd love to know your experience level. And we'll announce our winner on next week's live. We'll pull a name from our bowls and hats. So if you're watching the live stream, all you need to do is type the word July, okay, July in the chat. And just please enter one time. The computer will pick a winner while we do our Q&A, okay, July. All right, so we do have a question that Lorelei asked us on Instagram. And she said, or she asked, can waterproof or water-resistant canvas fabric be used as a lining for a leather bag, or is cotton linen preferred? That's really a great question. Leather is obviously a natural medium, right? It's a natural type of fabric, or if you want to call it a fabric. And so is cotton and linen. So my preference for leather is always going to be to match natural fiber with natural fiber. So it would be the leather with the cotton or the linen. Now, that's not to say you can't use water-resistant canvas. You certainly can. But the cotton and the linen are breathable. And I just really think that that's going to be a better pairing with the leather than anything else. Although, you know, rules are made to be broken. You can certainly use the water-resistant canvas. Just, you know, kind of think about the natural fiber aspect of the whole thing. So Heidi says, can you include a PDF of the thickness chart in the description for future reference? Yes, we will absolutely do that. And I appreciate you suggesting that. We will, because that's a really handy chart. Karen says, what temper do you use on your bags? I use a soft, usually anywhere between very soft to soft. And I usually use some Salpa to stiffen it and glue the Salpa to the leather. And, you know, we'll go over how to do all that later in the month. But because I like, okay, first of all, a lot of designer bags like the Chanel's and the Balenciagas, and they use soft leather for a couple reasons. You know, if you're going to quilt, you definitely want something soft and something nice and pliable. Even the leathers that we see that the bags are like rock solid hard, a lot of them are just stiffening that bag. So I really like the softer aspect of the leather, and that's the reason why 90% of what we carry is lamb, because lamb is very soft and it's thin too. All right, so we are going to announce our winner. Looks like a computer picked it, Jen Lee. So congratulations, Jen. You have won a Julie PDF pattern. Make sure that you email us at share@simplyclassic.net. And if you could do that within the next 24 hours, it would be helpful for us. We can go ahead and get you your Julie right away. So we will see you next week. We appreciate you joining us this evening for the Bag Makers Workroom. I'm sure a lot of people are traveling and on their way to their 4th of July festivities, and we really appreciate taking a few minutes out to join us tonight. I hope you all have a very safe and fun holiday. Be careful out there, okay? Just take care. Make sure you join us next Thursday, July 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We are, of course, continuing Leather Month with an episode all about tools and notions and what you need to get started with leather. Don't forget to submit your Simply Classic makes by posting them in the Facebook group or emailing share@simplyclassic.net. Don't forget, we have 25% off leather through Monday. Get your leather. And, if you're even not sure, get a hide, and then we'll help you, kind of weed your way through it over the next month and learn a little bit more about leather. Everything else is 15% off. So make sure you get what you need before Monday. And until next week, everybody, stay safe and happy sewing.